Ladies and gentlemen, come gather round, come gather round, come gather around. You ever see those trailers on the side of the road with one wheel having jettisoned itself off into oblivion? Usually it's because they dumped their trailer into the lake and they didn't bother packing the wheel bearings. Wheel bearings. Ew. Here's how you service them. Let's go. So I have a solvent tank. You don't have to have a solvent tank, but you could have a bucket of solvent. Solvent is just basically a paint thinner. Some people clean things in diesel. Not recommended. It works. I have a vat of diesel. This one, I did a service, I changed the design of this years ago. Got a link somewhere that shows how you'd make this a better thing. So I've got a switch, it pumps solvent, and I just like muffin tins and things so I don't have as big a mess. So with this, we're just going to get in here and get all the grease off of our bearings. I didn't show you the cool trick to get these apart. I'll show you when we put her back together. But as a preamble, a teaser if you will, when you're taking your wheel bearings apart, whether they're front bearings on a car or trailer bearings, you undo the nut. You remove the smaller outer bearing. You put the nut back on. And then you just give it a frickin' heave on the hub, and the hub will slide off. The nut will catch the inner large bearing and stop it from coming out. So the hub will come off and leave the inner bearing behind along with the rear seal all in one fell swoop. It's a really slick trick. And then this is the seal, and if you're smart, you'd buy a new one. I guess you can clean it off. I'm cleaning it off. You can inspect it. You can reuse it. If you're smart, you'd buy a new one. I'm reusing it. It's probably the original. Then, we've got the bearing itself, and it should be coated in grease. This is not draining. I need to make a bigger drain. There we go. And so we're just washing all the grease off. I might even just turn the pump off, because my little bucket here is good. And while you're washing these, and the solvent dissolves the grease, while you're washing it, you want to inspect it and see if the bearing's any good. If it's anything other than perfect shiny metal, that sounds like not much pushing, but a lot of wiping. And we're going to keep cleaning this until it's nice and thorough. If they change color, like if these bearings have gone tan, or blue, or they're still glowing red, you should get new bearings. They should spin nicely. They shouldn't be crunchy. And the rollers themselves, or the surface they ride on, both of those should be good. This comes as a unit. When you're buying new bearings, you should get a new outer race. Although, I've cheaped out and just replaced the bearing, but not the outer race. Or just the outer race and not the bearing. You run the risk of it wearing out quickly. You run the risk of it making noise. It depends on how much you want to gamble. One of these wheel bearings on my trashy trailer is junk, but I use a trailer twice a year to haul stuff to the dump. So I'm not going to buy a new bearing. It's not a boat trailer. And you want to spend some good time with this because it's hard to get grease out of there. Do what you can to get it all free. You can use bristle brushes, toothbrushes. I have another trick up my sleeve because I'm lazy and I don't like doing this. So I got that one. Should be the castellated nut. Castellated nuts look like a castle or a rook. Let's see if you can see that. Can you see that? A cotter pin goes through the castle, I can't remember what those are called. The social study history guys will tell us what those are. Archers shoot from them, but they'd be very small. You always use a new cotter pin. I've seen people use nails. Use a frickin' cotter pin, please. And a new one. Don't reuse the old one, because that's a safety. They're actually done up finger tight. So the front wheel on your car, you can fret over how tight the wheel nuts are and all that, but the whole front wheel on a rear-wheel drive car is held on with one nut done up finger tight and secured with a cotter pin. Let that sit in your noodle for a little bit. One nut, finger tight. What'd you torque your wheel nuts to? Does it matter? This is the outer front bearing. That's got a bit of discoloration to it, but not much. I probably shouldn't tell you that these trailer bearings are because I have Chevette spindles on my trailer. What's a Chevette, you ask? You're clearly a millennial. Then there should be a washer in here, and a toothbrush, and another brush, and my car keys. And this is a washer. This washer is keyed as well. Can you see the little keyway in there? That locks into a groove on the spindle so that as the bearing kind of slowly rotates around the shaft, it doesn't undo the nut that's holding your wheel on. That's the plan anyways. So with this, next thing I would do is wash this with soapy water. I don't have water in my shop, but I have this bucket of water, which I use for washing my hands because I don't have water out here per se. A little bit of dish soap, which I have in here. A bunch of that. And we want to wash all the solvent off. Oops. Oops. Oh, heck, they're all going for a bath today. The water is deeper than my gloves. Sounds like a rock band album from the 60s. Deeper than my gloves. I'm going to cheat a little bit with this over here. So my cheat is an ultrasonic cleaner. You can get these from anywhere. Heated. And it just ultrasonically shakes everything out of here. So I've had the left side, whoo, that's hot, vibrating away. Oh my gosh. These ones come out, the other ones go in. We're going to run that for a while. All right, compressed air. This will be noisy. This will be loud. Now these, when you are drying these, don't make them spin. You're going to make them spin a bajillion times faster than designed to go. Hold it, stop it from spinning, and blow across the bearings. If it spins like a turbine, so do it this way so it doesn't explode. These are usually caged, surrounded by a bearing. If it's out in the open, nothing's holding it in. Your face will hold these. So this way. If when you're blowing it dry, more crap is coming out of it, you haven't cleaned it enough, go back and clean it some more. But see if this will focus. Look at the bearings on here. These are nasty. They are chunks, grooves. I don't know what happened with this thing. They don't even roll nice. Should you reuse this? No. Am I going to? Yes. Shh. I wouldn't put this on my car. For my dump trailer, it'll probably be okay. So, now that they're clean, we're going to pack them. This is the part I don't like. Things are about to get gross. You can buy wheel bearing packers, but I just put this in my hand and kind of take this. I put this in my hand and take this and squish it through until the grease squeezes through the bearings like peanut butter through your teeth, okay? Just want it to come through like that. See how it's squishing through and kind of gross? And you just move around. Oh, fries are done. Until it comes through, and then you know it's packed inside there. This is gross. I use surgical gloves because I've found one of the reasons I don't wrench is the grease is not good for my hands. You just kind of power that through until the grease comes. I'm going to squeeze the bearing until the grease comes through the bearings. And it's going to pack through on the backside like that. It's going to be gross and disgusting, and that's okay. That's good. So one, done. Where's the other one? This one won't take as long because it's pretty small. Same thing, pack it through till it's squeezing between the bearings. At no time is too much grease even a concern. Those wheels you see in the ditch with the hub still attached to them, that's a lack of grease. There's more to it than just this. This is half of it, and this is the half that everybody does, but it's not all of it. The other part is prepping the hub. And this should also be solvented clean and gorgeous. All the way through, deep inside. This looks suspiciously like part of a brake rotor because it's part of a brake rotor, which was suspicious to begin with. But I'm using it. This isn't normal, but if you're not new to this channel, not a lot of things are normal here. Ideally, you want this absolutely clean as well. Now look inside that bearing shell. Can you see that? I think it's brittling or something. It's where, yeah, there you go. Look at that. That is bearing death. Buy a new freaking bearing, okay? That's horrible. That should be replaced. But I'm not going to. Okay? The thing with this is you've got a bearing race here and a bearing race there. And so the high edge of that bearing race, we're going to have grease all the way across, all the way through the hub to the other side. So it's going to be a whole line, pack the hub full of grease from the inside diameter of this bearing to the outside diameter of that bearing. Don't leave it hollow. If it's hollow, when the grease gets hot from the bearings, as it's spinning, that grease is going to fling out and fill up the hub. You want to have grease in the hub, so when the grease flings up, it can't go out of the bearing, it stays at the bearing level. A lot of people skip this. It's not a whole lot of effort. Someone's going to leave a comment that, oh my gosh, you can't do that, that's stupid. Well, I'm doing it. Don't really care. It makes logical sense to me. And again, is this going to be a problem? Nope. No, it is not. And it makes sure the grease has nowhere to go but stay at the bearing. Now, I don't want this thing packed absolutely chock full of grease. That would be dumb, because then when it heats up, it all pukes all over the place. I do not want that. But I want nowhere for the grease to go but stay in the bearing. Okay? Kind of like that. It's like that hole behind the filing cabinet in Being John Malkovich. Okay? But it's not dirt. You don't want dirt. Any extra grease, just put it in the cup. That way it's being used, it keeps it from rusting, and if it heats up and gets slung around by centrifugal force, which I know to you physics guys doesn't exist, but roll with it. That's probably a bad physics pun. This says somewhere it's got some grease. It'll go somewhere that's useful versus just throwing it away. Save the environment. Pack your hub caps with grease. Okay, then the bearing fits in there, the big one. We're going to put the seal on. It's a good idea to put a bit of grease on the seal so that it doesn't get torn when you're putting it on. And a big socket is nice, or a block of wood. And I think I have, I know. I have a plate of steel, which should work fine. I just need a hammer. Okay. That makes sure it doesn't go too far. And that side is ready. I didn't clean the back side because nobody cares. Like I didn't paint it. And that guy goes in there. We'll put a little bit of grease on the spindle itself because these inner races slowly rotate around the spindle when they're running, and a little bit of grease there is not going to hurt it. All right, so here's the spindle. That is where the inner race of the bearing was slowly creeping around, but it's damaged the spindle. I cannot catch an edge with it with my fingernail, so it's probably less than 1/1000th. That's kind of gross. I have seen these groove down so bad that, yeah, it's done. This feels okay, it looks nasty. We're gonna re-grease it, and this is that bad bearing that was really kind of chunky. Don't do this. Nevertheless, I'm gonna do this. A little bit of grease on the spindle. Doesn't have to be this much, but this is what was in my fingers. A little bit on the back where that seal's gonna go. I'm gonna put this guy on. I got my thumb in here holding the bearing in place. We've got the washer. I put the curved side of the washer towards the nut because they're stamped out of sheet metal. I put the curved end in so that the nut doesn't catch the washer and shear the little pin off. And then we tighten this up, and here's where it gets sketchy. But this is how it's done. These are the pliers I use to take it apart. They're handy that way. We just grab this. We got to seat the bearings, which means rotating this around. Oh my God, that's crunchy. You do it up tight as you can while rotating this. Holy crap. And then back it off. And then tighten it as tight as you can with your fingers. It's a noisy bearing. And though this doesn't have any play, we should have a cotter pin hole somewhere. If we're lucky, a cotter pin hole will line up, and you put the biggest cotter pin you can fit in that hole. Some would go a little bit looser, but I am just making it fit that way. Okay, I fit it in like so. Then I bend with a pair of side cutters, I bend the other side up and over. And like that. Cut the sticky outy piece off the bottom. Cap goes on. And gingerly, I spent a fair bit of time straightening these caps. And now that it's back together, this one's still a little crunchy. The other one's not bad, but easy service to do, and it prevents you from having significant failure. This one's going to be noisy because it's still a crunchy little bit of a bearing, but it's going to serve me fine for now. And yeah, at some point I will replace this. Not the trailer, but the bearing. So, as always, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you again. Bonk.